Hi everyone, Jamie Humphries here for Six String Alliance, and today we're taking a look at Everlong by the Foo Fighters. Now, I've just taken part in a collaborative performance of Everlong by the Foo Fighters over on Produced Like a Pro with an incredible group of musicians. We have Ed Thorne on drums, we have Jamie Lewis on bass, and we have Chris Lipe on vocals, and it was mixed by Warren Hewitt. Now, Warren contacted me and said, look, we're doing this performance, would you play guitar on it for me? He said it shouldn't take too long, it's a pretty straightforward track, and I've played some Foo Fighters stuff in the past, but I've played a lot of Foo Fighters songs in the past. And one song in particular, which was All My Life, I used to play that in a band. I was in a covers band back in England with a good friend of mine, Russell Gilbrook from the band Uriah Heep on drums. And that was quite a workout on the rhythm guitars. And I didn't really think too much about this. I thought to myself, Everlong, yeah, it's, you know, I kind of know the riff. How wrong I was. I sat down to record this and was like, holy crap, this is really hard. And when I dug deeper into this, I found that there were some pretty interesting things going on with the rhythm guitar. And so I decided that I thought that this would make a pretty cool lesson for us to study here on Six String Alliance. Now, originally, I was going to recut my own edit of the performance, just showing the guitar parts. I recorded 4 guitar parts. Yeah, I think it was 4 guitar parts on camera. It was the left and right crunch parts. It was the clean guitar and then the little melodic overdub. There was a 5th part, which was the main riff again throughout with a slightly different sound, which was just down the middle and also some feedback. But they were just incidental parts that I tracked after the event. But on the performance, you can see each of these parts being layered up basically. And so when I looked at my parts and then I looked at the performance video, I felt the performance video is far more exciting. So I just decided to reshare that video so you can see everybody doing their thing. Now, Everlong is taken from the band's first sort of official album, if you like, The Colour and the Shape, which was released in 1997. And it featured other standout tracks such as My Hero and Monkey Wrench. Now, when I say that this is the band's first official album, obviously there was the debut album, the self-titled debut album that came out prior to this, but that was just Dave Grohl on his own. And by the time he went in to record The Colour and the Shape, he'd put a band together, a touring band together. Now, this was a particularly difficult album for the band to record, and Dave Grohl was not happy with the drum tracks. And reading interviews with William Goldsmith, he said that no one was happy with what he was doing, and Dave Grohl had him do like something like 96 takes of one track. But then talking to Warren, who had spoken to the producer of this album, you know, Dave Grohl was just unhappy with the performance and the energy, and it wasn't how he wanted it to sound. So after the album was completed, they went and re-recorded it with Dave Grohl recording all of the drums himself. And I think that that's kind of interesting when it comes to analysing the guitar part, because the guitar part is so incredibly locked with the drums. Now, Dave Grohl has said that he approaches his guitar playing like he approaches the drums, and there's like a separation between certain parts of the rhythm and what the right hand is doing, which is the really interesting thing that I thought we should focus on. Now, it's kind of funny looking at this track, following on from the Van Halen track I looked at, where I made all manner of excuses and said how bad my picking hand was and didn't really feel that great about the way I played it. This track has a lot of downstrokes in it, although when you see Dave Grohl playing it live, there's certain points he goes into more alternate strumming. But on the introduction and on the rhythm track for the recorded version, it really does sound like it's all downstrokes, but it's so in the pocket, locking in kick and snare. Now, I did struggle at first. I was like, oh, this is quite hard. Spent some time working on it, and I was actually pretty proud of how the part came out for someone who feels that he has quite a weak picking hand. So it just goes to show what a bit of practice can do. So I thought that this was a really interesting rhythm part for us to look at. Now, when it comes to gear, Dave Grohl has pretty much always used Gibson guitars, although occasionally you see him playing that Perspex Ampeg guitar. But back in this period, he was using a 3 pickup SG, he was using Les Pauls, and he was also using an Explorer. And for amps, when you look at footage, he's using Mesa rectifiers. And I think it's safe to say from that tone, it's a rectifier tone on the original recording. Obviously, Dave now has his own signature, it's like a 335 style with like a Firebird, I think, headstock, the reverse headstock on it, one of which is in Pelham Blue, which kind of inspired my choice of guitar for this session and this lesson. So I'm using my Gibson Les Paul Modern for this. This is a fantastic guitar. Lots of switching options. It's got the extended cutaway behind here. You can see that there on the camera, so you can get up the top of the neck. It's got a compound radius fretboard and an asymmetrical neck as well. So it's a really comfortable guitar to play. It's also chambered as well, so it's a little bit lighter. It's just a really great sounding guitar. Obviously, as I said, the Pelham Blue kind of inspired my choice. I have actually got a Pelham Blue 3 pickup SG here in the studio, and I did consider using that, but I'm a little bit more at home with the Les Paul. Now, I was running into my Mesa Badlander head. There was a little mistake made on the Produce Like a Pro video where it was said that I used amplitude, but that wasn't the case. I was running into the Mesa Badlander and I was coming directly out of the back of the onboard cab clone IR with a Mesa 4x12 impulse response. Now, this amp is such a versatile amplifier. I did the launch video with this amp. This is actually, I think, one of the first 5 or first 10. It's a really low serial number. And the great thing about it is that you've got tons of power if you're running it live with a cab, but also you can plug an XLR in the back and go straight to front of house, or you don't even have to run it with a speaker cabinet. It takes the load. You can just plug it direct into an audio interface. So that's what I did for this recording, and that's what I'm doing for this lesson. I'm just coming straight out the back of the amp into the wall there, and that's going into the UAD. I did use a couple of pedals. I've got a pedal that was built by a friend of mine at Goliath Effects, which is kind of like I think it's a Boss sort of super overdrive type pedal, but it's got some mods on it that he made in a very striking black and white Van Halen stripe for me. I kicked that in for the climbing octaves and also for the chorus, just to add a little bit more bite and just give me a little bit more sizzle during those sections. I wanted the chords, although they're very heavy, I wanted them to be a little bit cleaner. And for the overdub that I did post the session, I used the clean channel where I was pushing it to break up, and I used the Mesa Clio pedal just to add a mild overdrive and just to give a slightly different tone, to have almost like a clean tone in the middle. You can really hear that on the original recording. Okay, so let's kick things off by taking a look at the introduction. This is the main riff, which is played at the front end of the track unaccompanied, but it has a slightly different feel about it. Now, Dave Grohl has said that this riff was very much inspired by Sonic Youth, and he was messing around with this chord when they were recording. I think it was Monkey Wrench. I might have got that wrong, but they kind of dismissed the track and the riff a little bit, and I don't think Pat Smear was particularly into it. And then when they reconvened, Dave had produced this whole track. I should also, mentioning Pat Smear, that's quite a point that I've forgotten. According to Warren, he who has spoken to the engineer on the session, apparently Pat Smear, when he recorded his parts, he was using Kurt Cobain's original rig, which is pretty cool. Now, I'm not too sure whether any of Pat's original recorded guitars from that first session made it onto the re-recorded version. Apparently, when they were recording it, they went into a much cheaper studio, and when the tracks were finished, the tapes were being sort of put in a taxi, taken to another part of town, and being mixed there and then. So it was a real fast turnaround because of the lack of budget, because they'd spent it all recording the first version of it. But anyway, moving on to the riff, we have this chord, which is a D major 7th. Now, we are in drop D tuning. And when you play this chord, you should play it with your little finger. So you're playing your first finger on the 9th fret of the A and your little finger on the 11th fret of the D. Now, I'm on the middle selection on the Les Paul using the bridge and the neck pickup. I'm on the clean channel, but I'm pushing the gain ever so slightly on the Badlander. So it's it's a clean sound, but it's just starting to break up if you hit it a little bit harder. So we have the D major 7th, then we have a B sus2, a G sus2, and then back up to the B sus2. So those chords are played against a pedaling low D note, which is the drop tune 6th string. And this is the really interesting part about this riff. I think this is probably why Dave Grohl was so dissatisfied with the original drum performance. The fact that when he put the guitar parts down, because he's basically playing along with himself, he's really locking in with himself. And the way that he sees the guitar part is that he treats the low string like the kick drum and then the chord almost like the snare. So you're going to play 2 strikes on the 6th string, followed by the chord, followed by the low 6th string again, and then 2 strikes on the chord. So put that together. And then we play the low 6th string and then the chord. So that's the first bar. Then we're going to play the 6th string twice, followed by the chord. And then we play the low 6th string again. And then we play the chord 3 times. And then we finish off with the 6th string. So the second bar sounds like this. Put that together. Now you're kind of brushing lightly across the strings with your picking hand, and in contrast to when you play the riff with the distorted guitars throughout the verse, this is very open sounding. You're not cutting the chords off, whereas when you play the verse, it's a lot tighter with you kind of lifting your fingers off to cut the sound of the chord off. But here, you're letting all of the notes blend into one another. Okay, then we drop our first finger down and we form that B sus2 chord, play exactly the same riff with the same combination of picking. Put those 2 together. Then we drop down to the G sus2 chord, and for this riff, we've got a slightly different rhythm, but this is very drum-like. This is very kick and snare, da 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 da. So you're playing on the 6th string, 1 and then the chord on 2, then back to the 6th string on the and. So the rhythm is this. And then we move up to the B sus2 and we keep the same rhythm going. So let's put that together. Now really try and keep your picking hand nice and light, just brushing across the strings. Okay, so now you're going to swap over to the distorted introduction, and we play the same chords, but we're onto a high gain sound. I'm onto the bridge pickup, and I'm on channel 2 of the Badlander. You start off with a single strike on the D major 7th. That's such a great sound. This guitar and that amp just really so big, so thick, but with such definition of the notes, even with that amount of gain. Okay, so you're playing the single strike on the chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you restrike the chord again. Then we play the B sus2, same rhythm. and then we drop down to the G sus2 chord. And I don't know whether I played this rhythm right. I was just playing it live. And the way I played it, I played 2 strikes on the G sus2. And then I went up to the B sus2 and I played 4 beats just on each beat. And then I built that rhythm with 8th notes. Okay, so that I can't remember if that's the correct rhythm, basically what I'm saying. I was just playing it, you know, yeah, just doing my thing with the rhythm, really. So one more time. So at this point, the band has entered and the main riff kicks in, but we're going to start off by playing this little melodic overdub. You're playing... So you're holding 9 on the G and 11 on the D, and we're playing really tight downstrokes. And then we add our little finger on the 11th of the G, and then back to the 9 on the G. So... Then we drop down to 6 on the G and 7 on the D. And then we go back round the original riff that we started off with. Okay, let's put that together, the whole riff. Okay, with my picking hand, I'm very much sort of playing just those 2 notes and then slapping my hand down, really cutting that off, keeping it really tight. Sort of making contact with the strings to cut it off. So now we're on to the verse progression, and this is exactly the same as the intro chords, but the performance of it, although the riff is the same in terms of how you pick it, the left hand is slightly different because you're going to have to lift your hand off to clean up and tighten up the chords. So you're going... You can see I'm sort of taking the pressure off with my fretting hand to keep it really tight. And then you're going to be barring here to play the B sus, but you're just going to lift your little finger off so you get... Watching Dave play it live, he'd been quite strummy with it, but like I said, on the original, to me, it still sounds like downstrokes. Then we're dropping down to the G sus, and we're doing the same rhythm we saw in the intro, but just tighter. So I'm sort of lifting off my little finger. Let's put that together. Really focus on that picking hand. Like I said, I'm quite proud of myself for nailing this. Someone who I don't really feel that confident with my picking quite a lot of the time, but yeah, really settled into that. It was a really good picking workout, actually, getting the separation of the chord and jumping from that 6th string to, stabbing the chord. So, yeah, something really fun for you to work at to build your rhythm chops. Okay, then we have the pre-chorus section, and very typical of this time, the octave. Yeah, we hear this on many sort of late 90s and 2000s post-grunge alternative rock track. You're sliding up, you're playing the C-sharp octave, so you're playing on the A string and then 2 frets higher on the G string, so really make sure that you mute the D. Although at one point I did wonder if I could hear the D ringing, but then I kind of opted to put in another rhythm guitar. There was definitely something else playing throughout. We did have, luckily enough, to have the stems from when Warren did a breakdown of this track, so I really got to hear the guitar parts and Dave's vocals, everything. It was really, really cool, actually. But I only got a mix of the guitars, so I could hear something very clean in the middle, and there was like a D sort of going throughout, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was something else layered. I tried to do this as just the stereo left and right guitars as I filmed, But if I left too much of the D in there, you lost the definition of the octave. So I put an additional guitar underneath to fill it out. So I'm pretty sure that's what's going on, but you know, that's what I did anyway. So you're playing a C sharp octave, followed by the low D, a D octave, the D, then up to a E octave, the D, and then you're sliding between the F sharp and the G, and you play the open low strings, which kind of gives you time to get to the next chord. So you get... And then we're going down to an A5 power chord. Okay, put that together. Now for that section, I was tending to use a mixture of downstrokes and then a little bit of alternate strumming on the chords. The chords had that sound, plus also it kind of gave me a little bit of a rest. I think I did mix it up a little bit, but heat of the moment performance, I wasn't really thinking to myself, I must play all alternate or downstrokes. I was just thinking, help, get me through this section. So you're going... And there you're just playing an A5 power chord. You keep your little finger on the G. Okay, then we go up again. And then the final time. Now that final time I'm landing on the B5 power chord, which leads us into the chorus. So now let's just play through the pre-chorus section a little bit faster. Here we go. Okay, so then we're on to the chorus. We start off with the B5 power chord that we heard at the end of the last section. 2, 3, 4. Playing the same rhythm, dropping down to the G5. 1, 2, 3. Then we're down to a D5. Now, watching Dave Grohl play this live, he plays the D5 there. But on the original recording, it's an open D5. You can hear it. You can hear the tone of the notes. And also, he's hammering on with his first finger from the open G. So you get this. 2, 3. So you're striking that D5 chord, all of the strings, big. That's a really big sounding chord. And as you strike it, you hammer your first finger down. The final time round, we go from the B5 down to the G5, the D5 without the hammer, up to the A5. And then we just build on the G5 with downstrokes. So let's put that together. You can also hear that there's some open Ds in between the chords, so like this. You kind of strike the open 2 low strings before changing chord. So the next part we're going to look at is the ascending and descending octaves. Now, this part occurs after the reintroduction of the intro. It's following on from the second chorus section. Everything sort of drops down and then it begins to build, and then we have this big kind of crescendo of octaves that lead us into the final chorus section. Now, we've already kind of looked at the climbing octaves, which are the... But this time we go... There's just F sharp, G, F sharp. So it's a slight variation on the end from what you've already learned. So the section that we're going to be focusing on is the descending octaves. Now, these start off on the major 7th. You're playing the C sharp to the open D, to the B, to the A, and then... Okay, so it's the same little F sharp, G, F sharp pattern. Put that together. Obviously, always that low D in between. And then the next time, you go up to the A. And then we just repeat round that one more time. And then you're into the B5 power chord. Obviously, it's entirely up to you which octave part you take there. Watching them live, I've seen Dave Grohl playing that part. Obviously, this is why you can see there's 3 guitar players live, because there's so many different parts going on. So, yeah, if you're going to jam along with the track, then obviously take the strongest part. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. This was quite a workout. I thought it was something a little bit different from the usual material that I look at here on the channel. Really good workout for your picking hand, as well as some interesting chord voicings. I'd like to thank my fellow bandmates who I've never met or spoken to. Oh, actually, I spoke to Ed for the first time. We had a little chat post the release of the video, but it's kind of cool that, you know, these parts just get sent around, you play your bits, and I was really blown away with how this came out. Literally, I got given the stems of Ed's parts, and then I had the original bass stem, Dave Grohl's vocals, and I had the original guitars, which I removed, and then I just played along to Nate's bass part from the original, Ed's new drum part, and obviously using Dave Grohl's vocals as a guide, and put my parts down, and obviously everyone else was doing the same thing, but with respectively removing the parts that they didn't need. But it all just sort of gelled together. It came out sounding really cool. So hopefully you enjoyed the performance. Make sure you follow the links in the description where you can download the free tab. Also, I've put all of the other guys' links to their YouTube channels. Also, head on over to Produce Like a Pro. Click the link and head over there where you can find the kind of mix breakdown of this track, and you can even download the stems and have a go at mixing the track yourself. So between us, we're giving quite a lot away with this look at this classic bit of 90s alternative rock. If you don't already, please subscribe, and I will see you here very soon. Bye for now.